Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Fire Station Building Committee meeting of Wednesday, April 24th at 6:30 at the Lakeville Police Station. Lakeville, LakeCAM is recording. Anybody else? The meeting recording? No? Okay. I added Pledge of Allegiance, so if we would stand, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you again for your patience. So we did call this to order at 6:40. All right, this is wonderful. I love that we have a OPM that I can just pass the torch to.
I knew that was coming.
So, it's good to see everybody. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but, it's really nice to see you all again. So if you wouldn't mind, Taylor.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. So first, I told Secotio and Parr they didn't need to be here today, but I just pass along kind of some site updates that we have until we have some more information, and then they can come and give us a more polished presentation. But one of the things, I guess, in terms of the site, so they delineated the wetlands last Monday on the town property side of things. They still need permission to get on the private side when we get to that point, or if the town wants to let us know when they're ready to do so on the other side of Bedford Street, but they have done this side of the parcel. So that is flagged for wetlands. They're working on going up and picking up the flags is what it's called. The surveyor comes in and actually shoots those flags by the end of this week. So either today or tomorrow, they'll be out there doing that. If not, for whatever reason, weather or something, it would go into the beginning of next week. But the plan is by the end of this week to be out there. And then what I passed out is it's just showing where they're going to be doing test pits. So Parr is working with the DPW to do test pits in the areas that there'll be water collection, any underground drainage systems, things like that. So they also did put on that sheet as well, the police station test pit information. So they're going to be comparing those. If for whatever reason test pits need to change, location based on siting, with that 200-foot setback or anything, if we can move it closer, those test pits may change. But really, the fact that we'll have information from this site and then the police station, it'll be really representative of the soils that are out there. So it should be in good shape either way. But we'll have more information on that, or Parr will have more information on that once they're done. So they have been in direct contact, through Bob and the DPW. So all is moving forward there.
If I can, Taylor, what would designate a bad test pit?
If it doesn't leach by a certain amount of time, or the water table's too high. So that's what they're looking for, is the height of the water table and how quickly, if they're doing any perk testing out there, how quickly in a certain rate of time that water percolates through and is not in the hole anymore. So put it in layman's terms. But
Yep, that worked. Thank you.
Yeah. So they're really looking to get the height of the water table out there more than anything, and understand the soil makeup and classification. Some of that information they'll use for the design calculations for the foundations, in conjunction when they start actually doing borings out there to get really deep down. But they want to make sure that they're not building on top of unsuitable soils, which would be too much organics or there's something buried there. It's a good indication of what's in those areas. So.
Good. Thank you.
I think that's everything to do with the site. They're still going back and forth with USGS in terms of the perennial versus intermittent stream. They didn't have any more information there. I'm hoping to get some next week, but it's good they've been able to move forward with what they have with flagging the site on this side of things and getting the test pits in. So that is moving forward. I'll keep everybody updated as I get more information there. And also on the design end of things, they'll have the estimate hopefully completed by the end of next week. So we did move that up before in our schedule. We were looking to have our schematic design estimate done really by June, in the middle of June, so they've pushed that up quite a bit. We'll have to, give them a little more information as far as in a narrative format rather than design, but they've pushed that up to give us some more time to do some marketing and get the information on the streets earlier than waiting for that estimate to come in and then hitting everybody with a number. So the plan is to get that in, then kind of reconvene, discuss kind of what information we want to get out there in terms of marketing. That was the biggest thing we wanted to discuss today, was kind of have like a little go around with marketing and discuss how the town wants to hit that. We have Molly here from our team who handles the marketing within our company and reach out for different projects. The reason her and Alex went to the station this afternoon, not only to get an idea and flavor of the station, but Molly went through and took a bunch of pictures of everything to help in the marketing push for the project. So she does have some really early iterations of things she's been working on with the chief as far as marketing goes, and she'll get into that, and then we can figured we could kind of throw some spaghetti against the wall, brainstorm, but it's really just to start building that process now of how we want to attack it and how the town wants to attack it.
So just a little off, there's an event that's happening, and I just had to look at the calendar to kind of see where we were, and it might not be realistic, but I can say that there'd be a lot of participation. So it's actually Sunday, May 5th. It's what they call Lakeville Day. The Parks Commission presents this. It's the second annual, very well received, a lot of participation, a lot of foot traffic. So it's an event that's happening right over here at Ted Williams in the commissary building. And I don't know the timeline, if that's something that, we would want to consider, because I would imagine that, this committee would probably want to, or members would like to be there for a little while to maybe talk to some residents, but that's something that kind of caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
Said,
It's a good idea, Madam Chair. We're going to be present anyway. The fire department's going to be participating in the event. Do we still have the some of the visuals that we created for our open house prior to the original town meeting? So we actually have some stuff, some homemade, not as polished marketing.
Yeah. Let me talk with, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chief,
No.
but let me talk with the design team and see if they can get some things in that time to at least have some
That's a
real
little more
representative
polished,
visuals. They're not going to be as polished as they will be in a couple months from now, but certainly the floor plans and maybe even some renderings that we can have for you to have set
That's a
up.
good idea.
I believe the time is 11 to 2.
Yes,
11
to 3, I think.
11 to 3? Okay.
11 to 3. Maybe that's something we can attend too.
Sunday the 5th,
A
yes.
week from Sunday. So whatever that Sunday is. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, are there gonna be
Right?
margaritas there?
Actually,
There'll be margaritas in
it's
it?
supposed to be inside
Then
the
I'll be
lodge.
there.
Well, we could maybe show up early on Saturday and have May the 4th be with us, but,
I care more about the
okay. That's all.
margaritas, forget
It's okay.
it. So when are we pushing up the estimate date? You said you were trying to push it up, did you?
They're trying to get it to us by the end of next week. So they're moving it up roughly a month and a half.
Good. Cause there's a lot of numbers floating around.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I know.
Some high, some low, some insane,
Yeah,
so kinda like to have something out there at this point.
yeah.
That's good.
And if we can get something set up for the Parks Day, that's probably something somebody can attend, maybe myself. And just be, stand there with the fire department, with the boards, and if there's questions, we can help answer them. It's the disinformation that you're trying to, correct. So if there is anybody that has questions or ideas about things, we can, be there to answer those questions.
That there's a little bit of disinformation, which is agenda driven, but there's also maybe some assumptions being made, like kind of failure to do their homework, kind of a thing. where, you know, it's a unique building. You can't apply the same logic to this building as you can
Yeah.
like an office building.
Yeah. We come across that sort of reasoning a lot.
Aren't you? Are you gonna have is the fire department gonna have a table there? Do we have to go through the parks to?
We were invited by the parks to attend as part of like having one of the displays. We usually bring a fire truck. We use it as a fire prevention education opportunity. We hand out like materials, things like that.
So you will have a spot, you will have a table or whatever, so we can just piggyback on that.
Absolutely.
Is this event run by the parks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess I'll just ask the question. I know we met with the parks, you know, and they weren't, they weren't exactly, all for the location. And do they want us broadcasting the project at that event?
I mean, I will certainly reach out to
Okay.
the chair of the Parks Commission and get his feedback. But the thought had crossed my mind this morning, and I said, well, I got to bring it to the table if that would be a realistic, time frame
Yeah.
to have something
I'm
there.
sure we
So-
can get the design team to turn some things around and we can attend.
Right.
But if it's gonna be too soon and just in the faces of everybody before we've had time to present, then maybe it might not be a good idea, but I'll leave that up to the town.
When I think about, how people might be feeling about the project, and it's, all we're doing is providing information. So if it went here, this is what it looks like, and this is what the cost is. Nothing has been, set in stone, or we haven't put a shovel in the ground yet, but it's about getting the information out there, because at town meeting, we're going to ask our taxpayers to be smart shoppers.
Yeah.
Right, when they're making a decision about whether or not they're gonna spend, which I know we've added to the capital plan, the $655,000. And they're gonna be, asked to allocate the money to the project. And if you allocate $655,000 to the project, there's still a caveat to that too, and there's a bigger ask coming with that. So I don't know if the town's gonna wanna spend, $655,000 and not, go the full, but if they have the information, they have a chance to digest it, they can be, they can make the decision, based on facts.
I think it's a good idea. I didn't think of it. We're gonna be there anyway. So,
Yeah, well, I'll reach out to the chair of the Parks Commission, probably this evening, and I'll just reach out to you first thing in the morning,
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And if that doesn't work, then we have to work on a date for May.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, whether it be, public forums or an open house, like if we threw around a little bit, an open house at the fire station is always great.
yeah, I'd be happy to, it's something we do every year anyway, so it's something we can throw together. We have a standing plan. So it wouldn't be hard for us to pull off.
Yeah, if you want to look at some dates, maybe start throwing those out. We can kind of nail it down and then we can start, marketing out that date too.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't see a problem with doing both.
Yeah,
If we're, not everybody goes to, I know Lakeville Day is a big day, but not everybody will go, maybe people can't go. So this gives people the opportunity twice to get information. I don't think we can spend enough time getting the information out there. We gotta just constantly push this information. The only way we're gonna get people, and we're asking them to spend $600,000. My immediate thought is, first people are gonna say, well, if we're spending this, what are we spending for the future project? So they need to know that.
right.
And more importantly, if they're gonna say no to the project, then we shouldn't be spending $600,000 because now it's just a big waste. Because you just threw $600,000 away to not approve a project. So, in my opinion, if people are gonna approve this $600,000, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, okay, they're approving this project. So I think that's why we need to be out there, we need to give them real numbers, and we have to be upfront about it. And like I said, be able to explain what the project is, why it can't be like this building, why it can't be like a DPW building or any other building, because it's unique and size matters with this, period. So we need to push that constantly in as many ways we can.
One of the most difficult things to communicate, if we were trying to convince somebody, is the consequences of the project failure. And it's one of the motivations for me to not be too grandiose in our plans. And, you know, when we were having debate over how many stalls we need, and when the first plane came out with 7 stalls, I'm like, that's not gonna fly. It's gonna be considered to be excessive by our public. We need to make it work with 6 stalls, because that's what we have now. We have 6 stalls. So we need to, it's very difficult to communicate the potential consequences. If we think our turnover is bad now, oh my God, what happens next? There's real consequences about the type of services that you could potentially have showing up at your front door if you're in a time of need, you know, family member having a heart attack or something like that. There's a correlation between the quality of our building and the quality of care you receive. There absolutely is. But it's a difficult thing to communicate that without seeming, you know, dramatic, or you're trying to grandstand, you're trying to, you know, play that scare card, but it's a real consequence. So finding that fine line, that balance of really being truthful, that if this fails, there's gonna be an impact to our public safety in town. It's not gonna continue. This isn't gonna be status quo. Like we're not gonna be just as good as we are today. There's gonna be a lot of employees of this town that have to make a difficult decision about whether or not they want to continue to be an employee in this town when they have the ability to go anywhere they want and how to get a job. And that's the reality of our job market right now. So that's what's on the line for me. And it's very scary for me to push this issue and get us to the place where we're making a decision about the fire station, because I know if it's a huge gamble for me. Like I have if this fails, this is going to be a very difficult situation for me to manage as a fire chief. I don't know if I survive it. So there's a lot on the line coming, you know, that's coming to a crescendo here. And people, I don't know how you make people understand that without seeming like you're being dramatic or you're trying to scare them into supporting us. It's very difficult to do. But it's real. There's a real consequence if this fails.
And I understand exactly what you're saying. But again, it's, you know, our job as the Fire Station Building Committee to put forward, you know, a design and explain what this design is and how we arrived here. And the design, you know, the preliminary design that came, it made sense to me, you know, as we were walked through it and what each area meant and why it was there and you know, what decision was made to put that there. That's all we can do is be able to share that message, you know, to our constituents. Residents, constituents. Yeah.
So this marketing team's got their work cut off for them.
No, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are in terms of what you were looking to, you know, have available.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of like just getting true facts out there. And I've heard from Taylor and Alex and from Chief earlier today that there is a lot of misinformation. And I think the best way to go about it is to correct that misinformation. So very preliminary, just a small thing. We have created a Lakeville fire page that will address certain needs of the fire station. So, you know, floor plan.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
So this is a very work in progress, but one of the biggest things that I think needs to be explained and will be explained is why the department needs a station of this size and of this cost, and compare it to other stations that have been built, similar sized communities. It's never apples to apples when you look at a station that's been done even right next door, because operationally they could run completely different. But as far as building cost per square foot and what we're seeing in similar towns, similar size, those can all be comparable. It's very difficult when you get into sometimes comparing even site costs sometimes, so you got to be really careful. But What we'll do is, through the information that we have of building similar fire station projects, and Secotio has built similar fire station experience, we'll have that up here and show where Lakeville lands in terms of all of that. So again, we'll answer those questions, because that's part of that information that Lorraine was talking about getting out there, is having people understand exactly what each one of these functions does, and really what functions they don't have now. That are just, that's frankly why the square footage grows so much, is there's so many functions that are not in the fire station now that need to be there.
So would it be beneficial to have a graphic? Because this is a mission, like this is a mission, this building points to a mission. Would it be helpful to have a graphic that said, this is what the building would look like if we did not provide EMS service? This is what the building would look like if we had hydrants throughout the town. This is what the building would look like if we didn't have forestry responsibilities. And literally chunks and chunks of that building would be carved out and carved out and carved out. That's the uniqueness of Lakeville. We have an EMS service. We have a district with hydrants. We have a district without hydrants. So we have a tanker in the building. We have 3 ambulances. We have, as you have other departments, that's not really a standard for them. Some departments don't have medical. Some departments they don't have a tanker. Some departments don't have a breaker. And so, it would be cool maybe to have a graphic saying, like, this is what our building would look if our mission was this. This is what our building would look like if our mission was this. But this is the Lakeville mission. One of the buildings that a previous board really liked very early on, field trip we went on, was to Mattapoisett. Mattapoisett's about 17,000 square feet. They don't have an EMS mission, and they don't have a need for a tanker. So, when you're talking about our size building at 24, 25?
Yeah.
You've added 2 missions onto that, or two elements to our mission, and all of a sudden the expansion of the size. They thought that building was very reasonable when they saw it, and they're looking at it, oh, this is nice, but there was no EMS there, and no water supply needs. So it's really I don't know, it's a static thing, but maybe like a comparison of what the building would look like if we were subtracting some of the jobs that Lakeville has to do.
So I have a thought.
I like the
think
idea of that.
Where you're going is a good idea, but I wonder if instead of showing them a building that we're not gonna build, we take the building that we are gonna build and we highlight the areas of the building that are related to each of those different
Yes.
aspects, so that we're taking our building and saying, hey, like, we need these spaces because we're doing this. We need all of these spaces because we're running EMS calls. Because that way we can show them that, hey, like, we're not just making this big thing because we want it, like, that we need it in order to facilitate the different types of calls that we get. And that way we're not having the architect spend time working on a building that isn't something we're ever gonna consider building.
I'm looking at, or thinking of it as, you outline each mission, right? They click on it, and then it highlights a portion of the station.
That's what I was thinking.
And then it explains that portion of the
Like,
station.
the whole thing could be
Yeah.
gray, and you could color the specific areas that are related to EMS. You can color the
Yes.
specific bays that you have that are related to the brush fires or whatever, however you break it out. But that way it's focused on this building and not a bunch of other buildings that don't exist and will never exist.
Yeah, in my head, I was just carving away this existing building, the space.
I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, but I like your idea of having almost like
Yeah.
the building light up where.
Yeah,
Like
that's
it
exactly what
fades
Matt's
out,
saying.
Yeah.
This part of the building is connected to this part of the mission.
But also too, I was thinking as you were both speaking of, the tour that we just took of the current building, right? You have the EMS mission and you were saying, like, if you need access to the specific fire truck, you need to pull the EMS out of there to get the fire truck. So if you did that same idea, right? If you highlighted the missions within the current fire station, everything would be overlapped. Like it would be,
You
you'd
could
be able to
delineate.
see that like all the colors are in one area because, hey, it's too small. Everything is too smushed together. Everything doesn't have a certain area. So it's almost like if we took this and mapped it out by mission and compared it to the current space mapped out by mission, it would be very obvious to see that, like, oh, okay, this one's kind of a mess. It's all jumbled together.
Yeah, it literally, when I've watched these guys, when a fire comes in, moving ambulances out of the way, and they're rushing around to get their gear on, I have like circus music playing in my head. So maybe that'd be like the background noise that you could.
I think we can very easily do it where you click on, say EMS. They click on EMS, it highlights the portion, and then it says, currently, and we can write a blurb with your help chief of this is how EMS is run out of the current station and the issues with it.
Yeah.
And then we, in the new station, EMS will have, so many square feet. It'll be, these are the safety items they'll be able to hit. I really like the idea of being able to explain every portion of the building so people really understand why those areas are there.
Yeah,
Why
not
it's
just-
being
not just
considered,
the
right.
base.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you could have a colored plan at the end showing all the spaces kind of fitting together, but colored by each mission so that you can kind of see how it's all fitting together too. So that it's not just a bunch of like individual pieces that are existing in the building, they're all working together in a way that works with to kind of achieve the mission that we're after.
Madam Chair, the other thing is, I know the bays are the easiest things to pick on because they're the biggest part of the development. But, we need to address why there's a specific EMS supply room. That meds have to be kept in controlled environments and so forth. Why there has to be a decon room. Right now, we got one little machine, takes, 2 weeks to clean the equipment that, they're supposed to be cleaned, in a couple
Within
hours. That's not just, it's obviously a health reason, but it's also a requirement. So,
We're an OSHA state.
right, so, we have to identify all the other rooms as well. Why is there a training room? Well, because this town doesn't have enough meeting rooms, so this gives us another meeting room instead of having to juggle who's gonna be in this room at this time and to go over there at the library this time. This helps us, give us more meeting space. We need to explain the other uses for the facility, not just the bays, and explain the living quarters. Why are we looking at this? Well, because they can't sleep on top of each other. It's not productive.
Maybe too, it's like through fun facts, like, did you know Lakeville only has X amount of hydrants in town? Or did you know equipment needs to be cleaned every, or a certain amount of time, or, yeah, excuse me, so maybe it's getting that information out in like a fun way.
Yeah.
You could do the not so
Yeah.
fun ones too, like did you know cancer is the leading cause of death of firefighters because of the carcinogens on their
Right.
On
equipment?
your gear, right.
Just
Like,
those
serious,
kind
like,
of facts that, because I don't think people
put
are aware of that.
Pictures of my coworkers that are no longer with us, they go real happy.
Oh, jeez.
No, agreed. We need to show all the facts, pros and cons, and go from there. Because I know many people that I've talked to have already said this project's too big. And my simple solution is, where do you want to build your next fire station? Because you're going to. So then they say, well, let's build 2 fire stations then. Okay, so let's say this is 21 million. Okay, we cut this down by half. Now you're at maybe 15 million? Okay, because your still basic cost is still there. So now you got to build another one for 15 million, so there's 30 million. So where was the logic there?
So
Put one place and do it right.
the first thing that pops into my head is there's a staffing element to this. Personnel, there's a reason why they have a Palace and Carvers, because they don't pay salaries. Like, that's a beautiful fire station, they can afford it. They don't pay salaries. When you talk about building 2 buildings, I'm thinking about, the first thing I think is I'm gonna have to go back and ask for more staffing, which they're never gonna give me right now. Because you don't wanna separate, you operate, there's a study called the Dallas study, and it talks about that a four-person crew operating together is much more productive and much more effective than two two-person crews, as a multiplier and working as a team. So if I separate my fire department to 2 buildings and I separate my firefighters from 4 to 2 in each building, I have a less productive fire department. I can't do what I can do with 4 people showing up at the same time as I can do with 2 people showing up 5 minutes apart. So I'm gonna be less effective. I'm gonna have people that are taking risks, unnecessary risks. It's the most safe solution, the most productive solution is to put 4 people together in the most central location. The location that's gonna do the most good to the most people. So like if it was a room full of fire chiefs, they'd all intuitively know that. As soon as they hear about separating out a group of firefighters, they're like, oh, that's bad news. It's bad news for the culture. It's bad news because all of a sudden they have two competitive fire departments. Rumors fly. It's a nightmare for management. It's awful.
It's just staffing.
And staffing, you're dividing
And
your staffing.
equipment.
Yep.
Now you got your pumper here, you got your tanker here, you have your stuff's all over the place. For a town this size, it doesn't make, now, if the town grows exponentially, you know, over behind me, if there's a 300 house project goes back there, all right, maybe now we gotta talk about that, but that's down the road, a long ways down the road. This project is what we need now for the town and for its growth. That's what we need to put out.
I talked about consequences to this failing, and you know, I really misspoke. The absolute worst consequence is to build a fire station that we don't need. Could you imagine spending 15, 12, $20 million, whatever it is, and the day it opens, we don't have the fire station that we need for this town?
Agreed.
Could you imagine that?
I can't. I've been preaching that the whole time.
That is the absolute worst outcome we could have.
And I know through marketing, you want to make sure that your message is very clear, concise, and not too much noise. Like it's very, very specific. So I like the toggle idea of, or, you know, showing what you're going to show. Because visually, it's, you know, there's an appetite, I think, for that type of.
And like we said, this is very preliminary, and we've taken information from Chief. I think another thing that was pointed out today, and just in general, like the reason I think you need a new fire station is, you know, you have both men and women who don't feel comfortable / aren't safe, like in decontamination. How did you explain it, Chief? We're like,
So when you come off the trucks after
Yeah.
a fire or a very dirty medical call, you're not supposed to enter the living quarters with your contaminated gear. You're supposed to start dressing down immediately. In a proper fire station, you're showering and changing out into clean gear before you go into the clean spaces. What happens at Lakeville is they can't do that. They don't have any privacy, and so they're walking into the quarters. And because we only have one bathroom facility, they're waiting a half hour, an hour and a half before they can get themselves clean again. And meanwhile, the rest of the building's being contaminated. And a lot of it is to do with mixed gender, because if there was a bunch of guys in the building, they would care less about stripping down out in the stalls. I've done it. I've gone over to the dumpster and thrown my uniform away because I've been so soiled by a call. I won't do that in front of female firefighters. So I would have those contaminants stay on me until I was able to get to someplace where I could get clean. That's the disadvantage of our current building. Does that make sense?
so health concerns there. Chief's been able to provide us a lot of information about, you know, cancer protections. So this is basically just a page, or it can be interactive. We can add anything really to it. So I just outlined it here, mainly to, you know, get the information of exactly what you guys just did. Like, that was great. I got a lot of ideas from that. And then, you know, there can be one sheet. So we created this for the town of Chatham, to give out to townspeople who were confused about a project that we were working on there. You know, fire station press release. We can do one sheets. We can do Q&As. We can do misinformation pamphlets. Really anything that you want to bring to the table. I think the more ideas, like how we were just going back and forth with that, that's great. Any direction you want to go, like, I think the best route about it is correcting the misinformation that's out there, giving them the facts, and we're not gonna, you know, yell from the rooftops things that aren't true. But through those pieces of information, you then get more like story behind it, like having to move the ambulance to get to the fire truck, like women and men having to wait because they don't feel comfortable undressing in front of one another. Like, all these things are true, and then can lead to really dangerous things like cancer, like decontamination not happening. So yes, it's fact-based, but it's also story-based in how you promote these ideas. So yeah. Thanks.
Have you ever done anything, and I don't know if you're allowed to take other people's plans or if it's just your project, have you ever, one of the things that needs to be communicated that is the scale and the size of our department, that what we're trying to accomplish is reasonable. And reason is established in comparison to similar communities of similar size, with similar missions. So if you can point to fire stations that have been built in the last 5, 10, whatever years, of a similar size to what we're proposing, you know, similar populations to what we have in Lakeville and similar missions, that that lends itself to what we're doing is is reasonable. I mean, that's what my goal has always been, to have a reasonable fire station, you know, something that.
We have plenty of that information.
Yeah.
And then, and designers that aren't, you know, working on this, we have information from past projects, and that's gonna be part of this, is we'll do a comparison on this site. We'll have the schedule on this site. And we'll obviously share this, any information. I know the town has a link to the fire station project on their town website. We assumed just hosting it on our site, because it's kind of like a third party impartial, like, here's all the facts. Everybody can go to it through our site, or we can host it, you know, through the town's website too. But
I like the third.
yeah.
That, and it's easy for us to update too, so
We
we
can
can provide
update it all the
lifetime
time.
updates.
Yeah.
Without
Like I
having
could
to
go
wait
on
for-
there right now
We
and
can just
type
have a
something
link,
in.
couldn't we just have a link? on
Right,
our
that's,
website?
it would be a link,
Yeah.
but that's something that I would hope that you could coordinate with Christina, because Christina manages the, you know, the website for us now. In, with the direction to, and why you're gonna click this link, and what's the benefit of clicking that link, so.
Absolutely.
Peter, you had your hand up.
Yes. So when we built this police station, the number one sale to me, as just, you know, Joe Town person, was when the police chief, the prior police chief, did a tour of the old building, and many of you saw it on LakeCAM. Excellent video he did. A guided tour. He was on camera, and it was very slow paced. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't like a 3-minute video. I think this thing was probably 15-20 minutes long. He took you to all the spaces, and he went into in-depth as to why they were the way they were, and how much it was costing the town the way it was, and not just money, but other reasons, you know. That sold it. It was an absolute sale to me. Lucky I was not going to the police station very often, so and if I could avoid never going there, that's fine by me. I had no idea what was inside it. It looked like a abandoned ski lodge, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, what a disaster. And he brought people through so you could watch it. I forget the lady's name who helped him with it. She's still doing LakeCAM.
Joanne Upham.
Yes, Upham. Yep. And she did a great job with him. So she was asking him questions as well. And that was the best prior leading up to the election was that video.
So
Everybody will watch it.
I did a video prior to the original town meeting, when they voted for the preliminary money there, the schematic money. It's still there as far as I know. I'll have to check with LakeCAM, but I have it. I have a link somewhere to it. So.
Yeah,
That
if we
would
can
be
get that
great.
too,
Share
we'll put that on this page. We want to keep like a central
Yep.
history of everything in one place.
Yeah, so I'll share that, and I think there's a second video that was more of a PowerPoint type of video as well.
Yeah.
I'll share that.
And if we need to do a new one, we could do a new one too.
Yeah.
Like if,
Yeah,
if
I agree. Those videos are wicked
Yeah.
fun.
'cause, I
Just
mean,
saying.
the
That
tour that,
PowerPoints don't work.
Yeah.
You haven't
It's
seen
just
my
like
format.
Going to
It's
sleep.
spectacular.
Good night.
no, but the tour that you gave me and
I'll have to
Alex
read it, I'll
today,
go to sleep.
Yep. Not interested.
Oh, you haven't seen my PowerPoint.
Yes, I
I've
have.
seen all kinds.
Yes, I shall.
the tour that you gave Alex and I today with those tidbits, I was like sold, done. So I feel like if the other one doesn't do it any justice, we could do another one.
Yep.
I could come with my camera and we could do a walkthrough and create an exact same video, you know?
In Molly's past life, she was a wedding videographer, so she can
Very
make
true.
it look real good.
It's still current.
currently.
I got one to know you're from. Yeah, so I have a side gig, photography, videography, so we could do that. And it can make you look real good, Chief.
Then,
Yeah.
Do it.
oh, we're on this. This is a great idea.
One of the things I want to make sure that we incorporate here, and this is something I can work with Bob Noons. People are, you know, this is great, you know, getting, you know, the content out there for everybody. What's it going to cost me? So if we get our numbers, okay, which I know we had, you presented us, you know, with kind of a preliminary.
Yeah, that was kind of my best guess.
Yeah, best guess.
But at the end of next week, hopefully we'll have
Yeah,
something
a little, yeah.
much
And-
more concrete. Yeah.
With the caveat that, you know, that this could change depending
Yes.
upon, you know, these factors.
Yeah.
But I did go on the DOR website today just to see if there was a calculator, because it makes it easy when you say, okay, if my house is this much tax rate is this much and the debt exclusion is this much, what is the impact? I'd like to be able to get that message out there too, so that there's just a way to say, okay, so this is what I'm looking at. Oh, this is really, all right.
gonna be asked of
You're
Larry,
gonna ask the
so you might as
question,
well,
how much is this gonna
have
cost
it up
me?
front.
Because people wanna know, what is the direct impact? you
How
know?
much? That bottom line. That's what everybody wants to know. What's my taxes gonna go up? And that's an important factor we have to put out there.
Yeah,
Towns
very,
recent-
very
yeah,
important.
towns recently have been, there's programs out there, free programs online, but you can take that calculator and put that on the town website. And so they can plug in their actual house value and it runs it against, you know, the town's,
Debt exclusion.
information. Yeah.
With the debt exclusion,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, so you can,
that's important. It is
No, but
important.
No, no,
Because we used to get a spreadsheet that was handed out, okay, so median household costs this,
yeah.
and then you sit there and you say, okay, well, I'm not really good with math, so how do I figure that out? So roughly, you know, it could be this to this.
it's the whole story, you know, what's the need, what's reasonable, and then, what's the cost and what's the impact? And consequences for it passing or failing.
So with that, you know, we'll get, you know, with Christina and, you know, we'll try to get that calculator out there and direct people to it and say, this is,
Yeah, once we have a real number to
Yep.
work with, yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
and I also wanna, if there's a piece that we can add that, okay, this is what you're investing. We've already invested $220,000, right? This next phase would be, you know, phase 2 would be this investment. And then the third phase of the investment would be this, and then that number is the full investment. Because I believe you had that all incorporated, the 220,
Yeah.
the 655, and then the build.
Yeah, I'm kind of just thinking of almost like a timeline that just says this is what this portion paid for, this is what the 655 will pay for, and then the whole project will get you, you know, X, Y, and Z. So
Yeah, I can create any sort of graphic.
yeah, I think we can do something like that.
So yeah, that's good to know.
All right, other members, anything else on the marketing that you feel as though would help?
The only thing I was thinking with the video aspect is maybe it'd be helpful to, like, as you're walking through the space, I mean, the same thing, when I walked through the space, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm on board with this. But maybe also like a video, especially if it's interactive, kind of having you speak on these points and explaining why we need this new layout and why, and I know it's gonna be there, you know, in a description, but having someone walk through this plan, you know, might be helpful too. And
Do we have money to hire somebody that's younger and more handsome like this, you know?
Mike, there's no
Not
money.
that much money.
No, but it's a good idea, and I'm willing to do it, and, there's plenty of people, and maybe there's a cheaper solution, because there's plenty of people that are younger and more handsome on the department, so maybe it doesn't have to be my face. It could be like members of the department as well.
Yeah, I was
Well, like
thinking.
say, it may not be a bad idea to have different aspects of, you know, you're the manager explaining but maybe one of the firefighters saying, you know, this is how we live, and and the deputy chief saying, and this is what we do. You know, have them throw in their little so now you get an understanding of the entire family, so to speak. I think that's a great idea.
What we did in Rainham was, I'm sure LakeCAM can help us with this, but we had the local cable TV company film us, and then we put out a video, and it was the OPM, the architect, and the end user, the fire department, and police station. It was a public safety facility we've been working on, but and we walked through both of the buildings, and we put them up on the screen, and then explained the building as we walked through it, in sort of from like an architectural standpoint and then a user standpoint, and it was really helpful. So why don't we talk? Maybe we can talk to LakeCAM and get something set up where we would sit down with them and have them film something, not live, but then put the video out, you know, an edited video that, you know, keeps people's attention. It can't, you know, sometimes you sit down and it ends up being 30 minutes long, nobody's gonna watch that, but if you edit it down to a watchable time frame, people will sit there and watch it and get some good information.
Small pieces.
Yeah.
Great. I just wanted to point out, one of the other select board members, our newest select board member, Brenna Donahue, was here in the audience, and she had some questions the other evening at a meeting. So come on up, Brenna. and say hello to everybody and welcome.
Hi,
Mrs.
everybody.
Brennan.
Hello.
So I did suggest that, she attend the meeting tonight because she did have some very specific questions that I thought that the committee would be interested in hearing, so.
Hi, I also do marketing. I think there's a lot of great ideas, and I'm going to be completely candid because that's the easiest way that I can communicate. Everybody in town knows that we need a fire station. I don't think we need to do a whole bunch of videos saying that we need to do it. I don't think there needs to be a ton of investment into content explaining that we need a fire station. We know that we need a fire station, but something that needs to be understood is that there's a lot of local legend, there's a lot of local stories and understandings about previous instances, in particular this building, which should have been a public safety building, including both. And it wasn't because of the chiefs. And that police chief is gone. So I think it's great. You know what you're doing, and I have no personal issue with you, so I don't want this to be seen as me attacking the fire department, because that's not the case. But I do have a problem when there is when there's almost a lack of transparency. And this isn't a targeted comment, but the comments about, well, we have to hide the numbers and we have to be careful what we put out, it almost treats the town people like we're stupid. Because the former police chief that caused this to be a single building as opposed to a public safety building is no longer here. So for the fire department, this is a job. Excuse me. For the fire department, this is a job. For the people of Lakeville, this is our town. So we need to be honest, and the best marketing material that you can be is being perfectly authentic, straightforward. At the town meeting, what we voted for is a schematic. You need to present a schematic at this town hall meeting. You have to, because that's what we paid for. And if a schematic can't be presented, then what did we vote for? Because that's what was on the ticket. That's what was on the ballot that we voted for. So if we can't be presented with what we voted for, then why would we buy it? Who's going to ask a designer to design them a house and then pay them the deposit to build it without seeing what they're buying to live in? Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to this and marketing and pushing it, no one in Lakeville is against a fire department. What we're against is too big of a building and a potential risk that we're going to have to be paying off in a long time down the line. Because we have to remember, Lakeville has the fire station, we have Old Colony, we have a Aponequid, which is going to need, we've got the town hall. So with all of these developments, if no one is considering certain aspects of conservative purchasing or presenting it as being a conservative purchase, then essentially what's happening is the town is being developed and the townspeople are being removed so that people who can afford all of these taxes can come live here instead. So when it comes to this, I think the biggest perk and the biggest benefit to your marketing is going to be authenticity, simplicity. This is why we need it. We're not going for this. Other towns around that have similar sizes and the populations that are within them. Because another concern, this town does not want 40B buildings. This town does not want a whole bunch of residences. And when we look at the 40B buildings and we look at the MBTA stations and everything going on, it's interesting to consider who's going to be filling those buildings, who's going to be filling those MBTA buildings, and how that's going to impact the town. So when you're considering marketing this, don't consider marketing it as, well, we need a new fire station. We know. What we need to know is what it's going to cost, how big it's going to be. Other towns of similar population sizes with similar size fire stations, those are the kind of things. Because again, nobody's against a fire department. Nobody's against a fire station. What we're against is excess and repeating the mistake from last time where the person who had the most influence and the most say dipped shortly thereafter and left us with what some people in town consider too big of a building. I don't know the police station, so I can't, I'm not going to say that it's too big of a building. I'm not going to say, but I do know that Lakeville is not, Lakeville is a small town. And it's something to bear in mind. Bells and whistles are great. It's great to have really infographic and colorful sites and stuff, but what we really need is just the straight, direct information that doesn't treat us like we're dumb, that doesn't treat us like we have an agenda, that doesn't treat us like we're against it.
Right. And I can, I think it's great that you were able to come to speak, your thoughts, because I know you and I have had conversations about this as well. But I can honest to goodness say that this committee right here, we have our charge. The group of people here has we've been upfront, right along,
Yes.
in knowing that the message that we want to deliver out to the residents is one of clarity, one that we can defend for the work that we've put into this, and that it's honest. And that's all you're going to get from this subcommittee. And I'm really proud to say that I'm part of this group here. And that's what we want to deliver. So,
Then I don't think there should be an issue.
Yeah.
But you just remember that you're going in, you kick the hornet's nest because you're going into the parks again. And that's neither here nor there. People were mad about this being in the parks. Now we've got another one being proposed in the parks. There's a wedding venue over there. So, we're looking at changing the Parks Commission into a Parks Department. But now, every time there's a wedding over there, are they going to be dealing with sirens going back and forth? Are they going to be dealing with, these other issues? So you just have to remember, you already got people mad because it's going in the parks again, and that's neither here nor there. But you're going in a situation where it's not that we don't need a police or a fire station. It's just that, being honest, being straightforward, and just presenting it in a way that, like I said, people can say, okay, yeah, let's do it. But the number one thing is you need a schematic to present at town hall, because that's what we paid for when we voted on it.
I think we've always planned on doing that for town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, the schematic design's done.
Yeah.
So
So we're ready for that. That was,
And-
and I think that was our first charge, to be honest with you, Brendan. We said, listen, this needs to happen. And that was my thing, is we can't go back to town meeting without having real numbers and real designs.
Yeah.
And I was one to say, we need to stop putting out any numbers until we have a real number. Because I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want people saying, well, it's gonna be $16,000, and then at town meeting, we say it's 26, and they go, wait a minute, we heard 16. I didn't want that. And no one else here did. So we were pretty clear that our first mission, when we set up our timeline on day one, was this is what we need, and we need schematic design immediately. And we have to have a budget by the time we go to town.
And that's in recognition of kind of like this baseline mistrust of government. It's like, it's almost the closer you are to it, like the closer you are to a politician, the more you seem to trust them. Like it's because you see their daily routine, you see their motivations, you see what they're about. And then those distant politicians off in Washington, they're a bunch of crooks, they're a bunch of, they're stealing us blind, they're awful people, they're crooked because they're away from us. But that's why we welcome you into this meeting. I love the fact that you're on the select board because now you get to see how everything works. But people sitting at home that are remote and they're looking through their computer at Facebook, they can buy into all these suspicion and this our apprehension about putting a number out there is putting the wrong number out there because then they're going to think we're a bunch of liars. And so that's the reluctance. It's not that we don't want to be transparent. We just don't want to be called liars a week from now if we got our number wrong and then we made an honest mistake.
Right.
And that's like the true reluctance out there, I think.
was there anything else besides that number that you were referring to as far as not being transparent, or
part of the dialogue is the thing, and the thing that she mentioned that was the comparables, the comparable communities, is the size. It's difficult for I don't I have to push down the emotional reaction to people commenting on the size of the building because the size is connected to the mission. If you don't understand the mission, then how do you make an educated opinion about what size the building should be? So we have a job to communicate. Like this is how we use the building. This is why we need this size building, and this is the way everybody else is doing it as well. So to me, Lakeville doesn't operate in a vacuum. We have to be comparable. We have to be reasonable to everybody else because we are competing for our talent. We can't be a one-off. We can't be a less than because then we're losing that competition for talent. So what is reasonable? We have to define that. What is a reasonable size fire station for our mission? And what's reasonable is usually what all our comparables are doing, to your point. I had one more. What's that? Say.
If I could interject, I'd like to say, first, I appreciate
Pam, come on up. Pam,
I appreciate you coming and,
Identify yourself.
taking the time to educate yourself and, being part of this conversation. But part of station design involves integrating standards, codes and standards from NFPA. So NFPA 1500, that pertains to health, wellness, and safety of the firefighters. We're not just saying we want
X or Y because, you know, it's not like a Dear Santa Christmas wish list. The standards 1851, that pertains to care and maintenance of PPE. That's the protective equipment that we wear. It's not that we're just willy-nilly saying, we need this, we need that. All these standards and codes, they pertain to best case practices. And like Chief was trying to explain earlier, if you divide, it's not necessarily divide and conquering. Sometimes you fizzle and fail, because part of the staffing best case practices, 4 people can be more effective on scene. It's almost like an orchestra and how people work. One person does the pump operations, another person does the hydrant. Same thing with the medical. When we went to 3 people on staff, it increased our efficiency for the town. So there is an expense, but then it's also a benefit, because now we're able to, you know, when seconds count, when people's loved ones, you know, the brain cells die off after so many minutes. And if we're able to get that patient to a destination sooner, then we're more effective and the outcome is better for everybody. You know, the whole thing is risk mitigation. And so if we're able to have the tools that we can be the most effective, everybody wins. And it's not that, oh, you know what, we want to have a station this big. And it's not, is it too big? If you make it smaller and you have more stations, there's more overhead to that. Now you have 2 stations to clean instead of 1, and who's to do that, you know? And that, in dividing, like Chief said, there's also social emotional factors into taking 1 crew and putting them in an isolated area. You know, it's a stressful job. Critical incident stress debriefing is one of the hot topics, and we want to keep people mentally and physically well to do the job. And so it's not that we're just trying to make Dear Santa, I want this, I want that. There's reasons behind each one, and maybe you could put the codes and standards associated with that. You know, 1710 is staffing, and also we're a career department and a call department. So when you take both of those type departments together, you have a bigger space need, because now instead of 25 career people, we could have 40 people. So where do you put all their gear? It takes more space to put everybody into that building. So that's why we can't do the same thing as Middleborough or Taunton. You know, we, like Larry said, it's a very unique station, and it's not comparing apples and oranges. We're comparing apples and iguanas. Like we're a very unique town, you know? And so I'm happy to talk to you. I know you came to the station one time, and as it turned out in typical Lakeville fashion, we got 2 minutes into a conversation and we had a call, so we had to leave. So it's not that the station's old or this, you know, there's certain things in that station to be 100% effective that we do need.
When one of the points you make, and it's tough that, like, I hate beating up on people I don't know. I didn't know the circumstance of their situation, like the decisions that I'm referencing, the decisions that were made before I got here, and about not, you know, and as best I can think about the timeline, I almost wanted to break out a pair of shoes and to illustrate the mentality I think happened. Like, we had this pair of work boots or something, and that was the police station, the fire station. And then back in 2007, they came up with that feasibility study and basically said we need a new police station, new fire station. So for another 10 years, these boots got worn down or whatever, and then they made a decision that they're going to build a police station. So we kept one old boot, we threw it out, and we got a nice new boot to save a buck. And because of personality conflicts, as you alluded to, terrible decision. Our citizens have a very good right to be very suspicious of how we conduct business. Then, you know, coming up to where we are now, this boot that back in 2007 wasn't good enough to be a fire station, it's gotten worse and worse. And now we're here, and at the last minute, we're going to get that new boot. And what I hate to see happen is that we buy a pair of one Croc to go with that boot because we're going to save a buck, and we think that it's this, you know, we'll buy a size 4 Croc instead of a size 9 boot because we want to save a buck or we want to be reasonable. It's important that we put the effort into informing everybody that we need a size 9 boot to match our mission. not buy a size 4 Croc. Does that make sense, or am I like completely making the fire chief's crazy?
I understood it. That doesn't mean everybody else did.
It doesn't mean that we don't think that you're crazy,
Shoe
but.
shop a little too much. Just saying.
But you know what? That's the mentality. We shortchanged the town so many times in our history to save a buck, and and it's cost us down the road. Like if we made the decision to have to build these buildings together, the police and fire station together as a, she's right. We would have saved so much money, and now there's consequences to that poor decision down the road. But in my mind, you can't use and I hate the word, but I'm going to say it. You can't use stupidity as an excuse to make another stupid decision. And I know that's really kind of aggressive, but that's the way I'm thinking right now. Like, unfortunately, we made a terrible decision back then, and now we're paying for it. There's consequences to a bad decision, but we should never use that bad decision as an excuse to make another bad decision. I guess that's my point.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's, it was a poor decision that now unfortunately rests on your shoulders, and it's not fair. But
Or shoulders.
Yeah, but in a way, it's something that it can't be avoided. It just can't, because the trust was broken. The trust has been broken between the departments and the people of Lakeville. So now, in holding accountability, it has to be done in a certain way. But I don't think anybody's going to buy a Croc. Crocs are, it's a Croc. So
I own Crocs.
We're going to get to a boot. It's just, these are the concerns that are going on.
So, one of the things that we benefit from is trust. We have this relationship of trust with the town. People hand us our babies. They hand us their children to save their lives. They haven't met me. They don't know me. They trust me enough to walk through their house and check on their house, whether they smell gas or something like that. They completely don't supervise me. They never give me a second thought, and they've never met me in their lives. It's based off the reputation that we've built as a fire department, and it's the activities of all the firefighters in the area and the good work of previous Lakeville firefighters. Nate, you've served. He's contributed to the trust that I benefit from, and I'm hoping that I can parlay that trust. And if you're watching tonight, like, my job is to make this reasonable and not waste your money and not buy something we don't need. That's my job. That's why it's, I wouldn't even consider a building with 7 stalls, because I knew we could get by in 6. So it was never going to come to here for consideration. Like, I know that's needless cost. I know there's spaces there that, if we can maybe buy other things or find funding for other things, can make some of the portions of this building not needed. Like, there's so many moving parts to this, and it's difficult to communicate it all. But the message that I'm trying to say is, I live in Lakeville now too, and I pay taxes, and it's very important to me that the people who trust me, that I do right by them, because I'm not gonna violate that trust that so many people work to build. That's the message at the end of the day, I think, that I hope to get out there.
Then I think you're ahead of the game. And then the other part of it is that, the size, it can accommodate, you're building for the future, so you do want to accommodate a population increase, but you don't want to accommodate too big of a population increase, because that is counterintuitive to the master plan, which is preventing too much building and preventing too much of a population increase. Because if we're saying we don't want enough 40B to have 20,000 people in town, but our facilities can accommodate it, then it kind of takes away from the credibility that we don't want that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
And I would never even begin to forecast what we're going to be. I defer to engineers and experts, because it's just not my forte.
Right.
I'd hang my hat on whatever they tell me is going to be the population in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. And that would be what I would buy into as far as the building. But it's nothing that I would feel comfortable putting, my name on.
How old is Lakeville now? 150 years?
Something like that. We've
Something
got a
like that, right?
celebration coming up soon.
And we're at just about 12,000, and it took us that long. So, just perspective.
Through the chair, if I could add
Yes,
one
please.
thing too. I think, Brenna, one of the things I think might be helpful is kind of if I explain the process a little bit about where the number comes from, because some people at home might not understand that too. And the charge that was put on the committee with hiring the OPM and the architect and doing the schematic design is being met and will be met for town meeting. And part of that, at the end of all that, is a professional estimate. And so when we were asked to come up with a number to get us through design development, which is right after schematic design, design development is the middle part, and then construction documents. I felt it would be a good idea at the time we put together an estimate of what schematic design would cost, and the biggest nut of that is what is being done by the designer during that time. A little bit of instrumental costs for the project manager, but mostly the designer. But I wanted to show everybody kind of where that number comes from, so I did a whole budget at that time and passed that out, and I caveated that with this is draft, this is draft, this is draft. Let's keep this number here, not because we were trying to hide anything, but really just because we don't have the professional estimate yet. And so once the schematic design is done, the architect then gives that to a professional estimator who has their hands on the pulse of the construction industry day in and day out. I could probably suture up a wound, but I wouldn't trust myself. I'd probably have the fire department do it before I would do it. My number is probably going to be pretty close, and I'm willing to bet on it, but I wouldn't want to put that number out for public consumption until really a professional estimator has a chance to go through it and say, look, the industry trends are this right now. This is really where your number is going to come in, higher or lower than mine. I don't know. So once that number comes in, hopefully at the end of next week, then it's time to go, okay, this is the number that a professional estimator that estimates, hundreds of jobs a year is going to give us that number. So in terms of process, I wanted to make sure we were clear on that, is that what I estimated out was really just my best guess and professional opinion based on square footage costs that we're seeing. But when we get a professional estimate, it's really telling you exactly in the industry where that number is falling out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. No, I don't go into this that you're not going to get it. The town knows we need it. Just
at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking at the ceiling. I don't assume anything. That's my worst fear, is that A, that we build the wrong building, and B, that we don't get it. It's not a good outcome either way.
This is all great feedback too. It really is.
Thank you. Took a lot of marketing notes. Thank you. Yeah.
no, yeah, it's not. I think it's going to be okay, but just focus on that stuff.
I really do. I hope you're right.
I'm glad you came down. Really, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my God.
Okay, so can we just recap real quick
Thank you.
what our action items are? So we've got a more clear estimate coming within the next 2 weeks. We've got a call that I'm going to make this evening to our park commissioners, the chair, about our invitation. To
lack thereof.
Right, yeah. To Lakeville Day, because I'm going to be there anyways, because I like to participate. But and then we need to pick a second date, because I think we all were in agreement that the more we can reach the public, the better. So we need to pick a second date.
Open house at the fire station.
Yep. So, Chief, if you can work on that. Molly and team, we've got.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay.
We're going to march ahead with
Yeah.
marketing page and take some of the things we've heard today and do another iteration of that. We could probably even send that around rather than getting into a meeting, just if anybody has any comments or thoughts. But keep marching forward with that. Keep
How
poking.
soon do you think that would be available for pushing out?
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
When do you want to be the star?
There's
Yeah.
some more information we would need. We probably want to do the budget once we get those numbers too and have everything there.
I get it.
Well, it's more. It's up to.
I'd say 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, because
All right, I just
transferring
just
it.
how like
It's
in
like
time
an
for town
it's an
meeting.
ed call.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Just in time for town meeting. I was thinking.
Yeah, no, of course. I think we have some background because background stuff going on with our own personal website. Like this, I am creating
We're
it
changing
in-house right now.
domains.
We're
Yeah.
changing domains.
So I
So
just
as
have to
soon
do
as
that.
we change the domain, then you can have access to
Right
this
now, it's
whenever you want.
this isn't live right now.
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah.
But.
Okay. So open house, Lakeville Day, and I'm gonna owe any pre-existing videos that we've done, crude marketing efforts on my part.
Yes.
It might
See
be, if
something
you're up
today.
for it, it might be a good idea to do a fresh one, because you can talk about the new design.
I'll reach out to Jose.
It would be fun.
Well, no, Molly could do it.
Yeah. No, I'll do it.
All right, Molly.
Yeah.
You and I are gonna be buds.
That's what I'm saying. I'll come. I have a nice camera. You can
I'll make
Do a new
coffee,
one.
it'll be great.
Yeah, I would do an updated one, and then, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, because I think, like, you know, to Brennan's point, the transparency that you gave today in speaking with us, like, that gave me the information. I mean, this is my first time at the meeting, right? I obviously hear about it from the two of them, but I was like, oh, wait, yes, this is needed. Like, I feel like it would just be very informational and come across as reasonable, because it is reasonable. So just giving the facts in an updated facts, I think would be great.
Okay.
So our second, Wednesday of the month of May is the 8th. So we've booked this from here until, right, Buzz? Until eternity?
September,
Right.
yeah.
Right? From now till eternity. I just called her Buzz.
Eternity, I'm not gonna be happy.
Yeah, we were allowed to book it 150 days.
Excellent.
So we booked every second and fourth Wednesday
Yeah.
until.
So the 8th is our next meeting.
Yes. Until
Yeah,
our
we
work
got
is done and
33
done.
emails from Christina, yes. Accept.
Yeah, accept. Yep.
Someday she'll get my right email address, but other than that, she's good.
So we'll figure out what,
Okay.
you know, I don't wanna have a meeting just to have a meeting because we have the date, but I don't wanna break momentum either,
No.
so.
Yeah, I'd keep it, so the 8th is, we'll just keep that on the schedule for now, and if we need to, yeah.
Madam Chair, you'll let us know about the Lakeville.
I'm
Day.
gonna send out a message, so hopefully I'll get in touch with the chair tonight, and then I'll send out a message tomorrow morning.
I'm upset I didn't think of that, that's a good idea. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, you'll come up with some others, I'm sure. I'm assuming there's
I
no
still think we
invoices
should
this
make
evening,
margaritas.
but I
No
wanted to
invoices,
make
no.
sure that that stayed on the
Gotta
agenda,
do the
because I
dump
know it
tank.
was off, and then I asked Christina to put it back on, just because I don't wanna have
Do
to
we have one of those?
forget
Oh, we can
it.
get one.
So it's there, it'll be there on every agenda,
Yeah, no invoices.
just in case there's something that pops up. Old business?
I have a quick question about
Yes.
the estimate. Is that estimate gonna come with full backup?
Yeah,
Can you send that out? when
yeah,
you
absolutely,
get
we'll
it so
we'll
we can-
circulate it.
Okay.
Yep, as soon as we get it, we'll probably do it like a day or two of scrubbing it to see if there's
Yeah.
anything that shouldn't be in there, and
Okay.
then we'll send it around to the committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. That was old business. Any new business?
Do we vote on the invoices?
We didn't have any.
Oh, I like you guys.
We're free today.
They're free today.
Awesome, like it.
All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
7:58 PM.